Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Musings from Japan, number 17. Greg, in Japanese, go.
こんにちは、Greg Taylor です。よろしくお願いします。
Musings from Japan, he didn't translate. That's okay. That's just Junanaban, number 17. And we'd like to present our special guest, a good friend of mine and Greg's, Mr. Mark Palmer from the UK. Mark?
Yay!
Welcome.
to Musings from Japan.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello, Mark.
You're going to get British accent today. Yeah.
That's what we want. Tired of hearing my bad English. So what we want to do is make sure, I want to set a rule here. When we refer to Mark Palmer, we call him Mark. And then Greg, you call me Marin like you used to do when we were in the States.
Okay, sounds good.
Because nobody ever called me Mark because we have so many Marks.
Well, now, I can't call you Marin because I'm in Japan and it's Marin.
It's Marin in Japan.
どうすればいいでしょうか?
Well, at school they call Mark Palmer and they call me Big Mark. I'm Big Mark.
Big Mark. Okay. Well,
I always introduce you as Mark 1 and me as Mark 2.
We have Mark 1, but I remember we had Mark Luis too. We had 3 Marks at one time at school. So I was Big Mark. We had Little Mark, and then we had Mark Palmer. so I'm Mark 1. You can call me Mark 1. Okay, Greg?
Okay. Got it.
And you're the only one who has to worry about it because I know who I am. Mark, you know who you are.
Yeah, you can call me Greg.
Okay, Greg. So let's get the things rolling here. So, Mark, why don't you just give a little bit of, as we say in Japanese, a jiko shokai, your self-introduction.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I was born in Windsor in England, which is just outside London. It's famous for a castle that was built in 1066. And the Queen still lives there now. It's her weekend residence. Buckingham Palace is the weekday residence. I grew up mostly in and around Oxford, so very much an Oxford English. What else have I got to tell you? Well, I'm married to a Japanese, and I have 2 sons. I've lived here 15 years, on and off. I've been in and out a few times.
Yeah, at least 15 is.
Yeah, probably 16 actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've known you almost all of that whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. You were a show mostly, but.
Right. Yeah. So that was with show and air now, that's 11, 12 years.
Yeah. So
can you believe that, Greg?
No, man. And Mark 2, Mark Palmer.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I have been here. I'm going into my 8th year. This is my 8th autumn in Japan. That long.
I know. My eldest son just had his 13th birthday. I can remember the day he was born like it was yesterday. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so what brought you to Japan, Mark? Let's go from there. What brought you?
Okay,
here?
A little bit roundabout story. I'm an engineer by trade, and I was working as an aircraft engineer on Russian airplanes, mostly aerobatics.
They need a lot of work, I would assume. Yeah.
They do. They're quite high maintenance. Beautifully made, phenomenally made. But yeah, high maintenance. And I was supposed to go to Russia for some training, go to Moscow. So I wanted to learn a little bit of Russian, but there were no Russian classes. But I had several Japanese friends, and there was a Japanese class. So I took the Japanese class for 2 years. And then I came to Shirone on a homestay for 3 months. I did a homestay there, traveled around. I liked it so much, so I went back, trained as a teacher, took the test, passed it, and then started applying for jobs here. And I ended up with a job in Niigata at Neikaiwa. And that was how it started.
Wow. So Shirone. So Greg, have you been to Shirone?
Why does that sound familiar?
It's a little town just outside of Niigata.
8 miles. 8 miles.
Yeah.
Oh, great, Mark. Thank you.
I walked it once, so I know it's 8 miles.
I was gonna say 12 kilometers, but who knows? But Shirone is famous for the kite festival. Greg, you remember?
Yeah, I know. I've been to Shirone.
The big kites they fly.
Yeah.
The ones that takes about 20 or 30 people to fly. That's Shirone. So
Yeah.
okay, so you spent time at Shirone. You took the test, and you came to work at a Eikaiwa, which is a English conversation school.
Yeah.
And that was
2 years. That was
that
2 years.
okay. That was James, I would assume.
Yes, it was.
Right. Okay. I don't know if Greg, you remember
Well,
James?
you recall, yeah,
Yeah.
Mark too, Mark Palmer.
2 is fine. Don't worry.
In December of 2012, Mark came to America, and he did some work and visitations in America, and then we met in California, Northern California. We met, and I took Mark out to a steak dinner and
Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah, Outback Steakhouse, which we have here in Japan, but it was the first time for you in America, I think.
Period.
And period, yeah.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, at that time, sure. And anyway, so at that time it was 2012, and I had been on hiatus from work, and I was contemplating very seriously coming to Japan myself in December. That was late November. And so Mark and I discussed it, and that's where I decided I was coming to Japan myself in 8 years ago this month.
Yep.
And I decided, I made the decision, and so from then on I went through the steps, and Mark recommended that I contact and apply at James English School. I did, and I was unsuccessful in the application, and that's okay, but it was a good experience for me. I didn't even get an interview, but
James never responded to you.
I don't believe that they did.
No, because and they're very bad at that. And Mark could attest to that.
Well, I came here looking for a job, and then I had an interview at James. I actually got an interview there.
Wow.
And I didn't hear anything for a week, and I was getting low on money, so I thought I'll go back to England. And as I arrived back at my parents' house, there was a big envelope waiting for me there with a contract and everything in for James. So I had to turn around and come back again.
It was that easy. They didn't even contact you. They just sent you the contract.
Yeah.
You're in here. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So now you came to Japan. You worked a couple of years at the James, and you're kind of freelancing now, basically.
Yeah, I started freelancing when I got married. That was when I left James.
Did you meet your now wife in England or here, or somewhere in between?
If I say this, it's a secret. She was my student. She walked into my classroom, and I thought, "Wow, you are beautiful."
But she was an adult.
Yeah.
Yes, she was very beautiful. And then about 3 weeks later, we went out and had coffee. And then 6 months after that, we were married.
Oh, you knew. Yeah.
Really short.
Yeah.
It's our 16th wedding anniversary, Christmas Eve. So.
Oh, congratulations. That's great.
Yeah.
I like that. A cup of coffee and we're married.
Well, don't mess around,
It's like, I paid for the coffee. Let's get married. Man, so now you have, I want to mention your sons, because your sons are quite extraordinary. So could you introduce just briefly your sons?
My sons. Okay. Well, the first one is Alexander Suzuki Palmer. Is his full name. Everybody calls him Sasha. He likes Sasha. He had a choice between Alex, Alec, Aleg, Sandy, which is the British English, and the European Sasha. So he chose Sasha. He's 13. The other one is 10. His name is Fabian. Everybody calls him BB. He called himself BB. And
BB.
Yeah. They are totally fluent in both languages. I mean, completely native level English. And
well, I like what you were telling me. Which son, your oldest son, was helping the teacher teach English in the class?
Oh yeah, they're ALTs. Both of them are ALTs. The teacher always says, "How do you say this? How do you say that?" And he has to teach it. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And
been getting bored, I think.
Now, but they've had a unique experience, though. They've been educated in Japan and as well in the UK, right?
Yeah, they have. They've traveled all over Europe as well. We toured all over Europe, France, Belgium. They've been to the Normandy beaches, Paris, Germany, Denmark, Holland. Yeah, plus all over England, all sorts of museums and castles. And
Did you
a
did you
great
get?
one.
You said you went to Egypt. Is that?
I have. I haven't taken them yet.
Oh,
That's
not
my next. That's
next.
my next plan.
Ah,
But COVID sort of come along and put a hold on all that stuff.
yeah. See,
But yeah,
that's
that was the next plan.
yeah. See, that's one thing that Americans really don't do is they don't travel to Europe, or a lot of outside of like Greg and I had traveled a lot, but mostly the reason we travel was music. We had opportunities to play or perform, so music took us there. But to travel just freely like that, just to explore it, very few Americans really do that, considering the
Yeah.
population. They'll
I mean,
travel to Mexico, but
I mean, I have a Honda Stepwagon, which is an import. It's still in England now,
mm,
so it's a nice big. And we basically just loaded it up and set off, and we'd have one night in the hotel, and then the next night, if we couldn't get a hotel, we slept in the car because it was big enough.
yeah,
And we just literally just traveled around.
yeah. People do that in America, though. I mean, Greg, you've traveled around America like that with campers, or
Not campers. My family was never a camping family. I think
Mhm.
my mother camped when she was a girl, but I never had the opportunity to camp. The closest I got to camping was out in my backyard.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually owned a Pace Arrow, 27-foot Pace Arrow when I was in England with a Chrysler 440 in it. And I lived in that for about 2 years. I traveled around doing contracts at different garages. And
I like the idea of camping, things like that myself. I like.
Yeah, well, aircon, microwave, fridge, freezer, flush.
That's great.
Shower. Yeah, yeah.
well, then, like you said, you're an engineer and you went around work, but Greg had mentioned this earlier in our pre-recording meeting here. You're a motorcycle enthusiast.
Yeah, I seriously love motorbikes.
Yeah.
I had
Okay.
my first motorbike when I was 14 years old. It was an old Villiers 200cc off-road bike, and used to tear up the fields and the woods around my house.
Oh, nice. Well,
I was 16.
you prefer the small bikes like that, or or do you like
bigger the better.
the hogs,
Bigger,
right?
faster. No,
That's
I
great.
don't like Harley
I
Davidson.
mean, not Harley, but like what would you?
I like sports bikes, super bikes.
Super bikes. Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
Although my knees are getting a little bit iffy for being cramped up on a super bike these days. But Harley Davidson's, no, God. I don't know how you all ride Harleys. I mean, you sit on them and it's tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
30 minutes. 30 minutes later, you're looking for the toilet, And then you're back on it, another 30 minutes, another toilet. And you get off and your hands are still doing this,
Well, it's kind of funny because I know that Harley Davidson is the big image, but I know a lot of motorcycle. I have a lot of relatives who have done motorcycles and stuff, and they didn't like the Harley Davidson for exactly the vibrations, but they would ride. They would get like Indians,
that would be my choice.
The Husqvarnas, the old Huskies, and they had a handle that was kind of rubbery. You had the handle with the rubber, and then you put your hand at the rubber part. It hung off, like this is the handle, but there's a rubber part here, and they hold that because of the vibration. But Harley didn't have that. Harley, you hung. So they talked about the old bikes knew about the vibration, and the seat bounced. The Harley, you sit on that back. You the shock absorbers do the work for you, but really doesn't do the work. As the old bouncy seats, so.
Yeah, I mean, Americans have never been good on shock absorbers anyway. I mean, I've had few American muscle cars in my time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love them. I love them. But their handling and if you were a bit prone to sort of motion sickness, sitting in the back,
Well, do you have a bike here now?
I don't now, not this time. When I went back to England, I did have before. I had 2 or 3 here. And then since I've been back, no, I haven't.
Any plans?
I'd like another one. Yeah, I must admit, I'd like another one. But
now, is it like cars? And I'm not a motorcyclist, and Greg's not, right?
No, but I've ridden small motorcycles before, though.
Yeah, I've ridden small ones and mopeds, but but a hog once. A friend of mine had a Harley, and I took it for a long drive, and yeah, the vibration, yeah. But anyway, but you know, what was I going to ask?
I have an interesting story
Well, I was
about motorcycles.
well, I was going to say,
So,
what do you prefer? What would be now? What would you prefer getting? What would be your next your bike?
Well, I mean, if money wasn't
Yeah, let's say money's not an object, because Greg will give you all the money you need. So
okay, well, it would have to be Japanese or Italian.
Italian, okay.
I'd either want one of the Kawasaki supercharged
yeah.
H2s.
Oh, that's
about
great.
The fastest
Ooh,
things in the world.
Yeah,
Or a Ducati Panigale.
the Ducati.
Would you mind if it was new?
No, it could be secondhand. I'm not fussy.
Yeah,
Oh.
but you
If
wouldn't
you're going
mind
to
the
buy
new
me
one,
one,
would you?
Greg, I never look a gift horse in the face.
Oh, there you
Greg.
go.
You're going to buy me one.
Okay, Greg, go down to this Ducati shop. I know there's one there in Nagoya, so you can pick one up for
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Kawasaki H2 in the shop here, and I sort of drooled over it, but it was
Yeah.
like 6 million yen. You know?
Oh, and for those who are in
6 million?
America,
Yeah.
that would be about $60,000
Yeah,
approximately.
that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's almost twice as much as my car.
Oh, yeah.
And I just bought a brand new car. That's almost twice as much as my. Wow. Well,
But then again, Mark, you can
Yeah.
go from standstill to 400 kilometers an hour and back down in about 42 seconds.
Jeez, 400K kph. My gosh, that's
There's
fast.
actually a good video on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
okay, let me ask you this as a bike enthusiast, and I bought a hybrid because all the pressure from people, and so yeah, my car excels very a lot quicker than my previous car, but it's a hybrid. The idea, I just drove one tank of gas. I drove over almost 900 kilometers on one tank of gas.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's great. But are motorcycles built the same? Are there hybrid motorcycles? I mean, I don't know.
No, they're either petrol or electric. Electric ones are criticized as being soulless.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a good description, because a motorcycle is so interactive with the clutch and the gears, and
right.
And then you've just got a twist and go electric bike. Most bikes seem to think they have no soul. As everyone says, if you're a pizza delivery boy or you live in a city commuting, then an electric one makes a lot of sense. But if you're like a weekend biker and you like touring, then it's got to be petrol.
Well, does it have the power? Does it have my hybrid?
Fast.
Okay.
They're really fast.
Oh, okay.
Electric.
Yeah. But they're just
who knew?
Soulless is probably the best way to describe it.
I watched the American TV show, the remake of Hawaii Five-0, and they showed that one of the police officers rode an electric motorcycle, and I was thinking, it's electric. I mean, he just got on it and went, and he stopped and he got off. It's like no clutch. Yeah, you're right. There was no clutch. No, like I look at sometimes I look at Jay Leno's
car thing or
car thing, on YouTube.
Car show,
because he's an enthusiast, and he's a motorcycle. He's got like these motorcycles from the turn of the last century. He's got really old bikes, but he shows he loves the ones with the shift,
the hand gear change.
So Greg, you're doing this and you shift it, and then
they got a foot clutch. They got foot clutch on them.
Right, a foot clutch and a shift. I said, what's like a car? To me,
but
I mean,
it's a sequential.
Right. He sent that, and I'm going, okay. I'm lucky I can use a lawnmower when it comes to that kind of thing. So
I have an interesting story about motorbikes and small power bicycles. Motorbikes. When I was a kid, I rode a small motorcycle in an orange grove, and I pulled sprinklers to water the trees. That was part of my job. I'd go in this massive orange grove, and I just get on the bike, and I'd use it to help me pull the sprinklers and move the sprinklers. And that was part of my job. And I think it was 8th grade, going into high school. And so I did that. And then, but I remember one time I went over to my cousin's house, and they lived in Fresno, and they had this small bike, and it was more like a mini bike. But I remember that I got on it. They said, yeah, you can ride it. Yeah, sure. But be careful, because it's pretty. And then so I got on it, and I moved the throttle, and actually I went full throttle. And the next thing I know, I'm out of control, and I'm flying straight for their house. and I made a slight turn, and the last thing I remember was going towards the car. The last thing I remember was going towards the car, and then the next thing I know, I'm under their car.
Oh, you laid it down.
Yeah, I laid down the bicycle and the bike, and I went under the car, and my cousins are there, and they're laughing, and they're pulling me out. and they but I remember my entire side was bruised. I bruised. I didn't go to the hospital or anything like that, but it was a little bit of a frightening experience for me, and that was it for, I think, riding one of those kinds of things, because my vision just isn't suitable for the depth perception and balance, proper balance. So that was quite an experience, but they were laughing, but their father, of course, made them pay the damage to the car. So because they put me on it.
Talking about that, I mean, I never get on a bike without wearing all the right gear. I mean, I got all the right clothes, all the protection.
And I didn't have that at that time, yeah.
Yeah. This is what really shocks me in Japan, especially in the summer, when you see these people on these bikes in T-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops.
Well, don't go to California.
Well, if they come off, they're going to lose their toes. Their skin is they're going to be down to the bone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just cringe at that when I see it.
Well, in America,
in the summer.
Yeah, in America, I know guys who ride bikes, and they're serious. Yeah, they have the gear. They always have gear. And California does have a helmet law. But I remember when I was in Illinois, when I was working at the high school as a principal, our sister school was in Illinois, and the state of Illinois at the time, I'm not sure about now, didn't have a helmet law. It was like one of the few states in America that the motorcycles don't need to ride with a helmet. And I saw these guys on the power bikes. They're riding around town with their hair waving. And I'm going, I told somebody, one of the professors at the university there says, why aren't they wearing a helmet? Oh, they don't have to. What do you mean? He said, well, there's no law. I'm going, you guys are nuts, man.
Yeah,
I just Greg tells a story about laying a bike in front of a car. I mean, one of the earliest memories of a motorcycle for me was a guy, maybe he was drunk or on drugs, hit the back of a car and went through the back, went and ended up in the, of course, he was killed, but that was across the street from our house, and we heard it, and I just remember the ambulance and the fire truck and all that kind of stuff. I was a kid, I'm maybe 5 or 6 years old, maybe when it happened, but yeah, so that kind of thing, that's scary, Greg, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I think we all know stories. I have you got to be careful no matter what you do, car, bicycle, motorbike.
Well, let me let's since we're on the driving thing. Okay, so Japan and the UK both drive on the left side, which is fine. And Greg and I have driven in the UK, right? Greg, you drove. You said
that's correct. Right, 30 years ago.
And I've driven around Europe in different countries, and some of the jobs that I did as a when I traveled with the band, I might be the band manager, so I got the van. So, I remember driving around Europe in different countries, but I always loved driving in the UK because the roundabouts, just love those things. Man, it's so
I find the traffic lights here really frustrating. I mean, in England, if you go on the main road into London through Slough, there's like traffic lights every 200 meters,
right?
But they're speed linked. As long as you do the speed limit, 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, you will get them all green.
Right.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, they're timed here in they're timed that way in Japan only after rush hours. So when you're traveling during a rush hour, they're random, they're censored. So if they and I don't like it, but if you're traveling like between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, you just keep the speed, you catch all the lights, or at night after 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock, you catch everything and it's no problem.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in England, all traffic lights have got sensors in the road, the coils in the road. And if there is no car waiting to come out, they will not change. You will just get green light on the main road.
Some places in the countryside here in Niigata, I noticed that they have the little sensor above the light. You see the little, looks like a little umbrella sitting up there. So if there's if there's a car there, they'll automatically stop. Or if a motorcycle comes there, or if a pedestrian comes there. So sometimes I'm driving on this road, it's black and there's no cars, and all of a sudden the light changes. I'm like, what the heck? And then I see a person walking his dog across the street, and it, it's kind of a good safety thing that way, but if it's not, wide open, go ahead.
I wish the city was like that.
Well, I mean, there is one roundabout in Niigata. Have you driven it?
Yes.
Greg, have you?
It's not very exciting compared to England.
I know. It's like, I always like it because when I go out towards Yahiko, that direction, you drive over there, and there's always some guy going,
This is what I thought was really interesting. They brought, I don't know how extensive it has become in California since I haven't lived there for almost 8 years. But in California, about 10 or 12, 15 years ago, they put in a roundabout out in the desert area, right off the interstate highway. And that roundabout was a large roundabout, and it's funneled you off into 2 or 3 different directions, or at least. And so it was a new concept for Americans because we're not used to roundabouts. But I remember in the countryside in Britain or in England, using those it's very convenient.
Have you ever been on one of the really big roundabouts with all the little ones?
Yes.
Yeah, they're great fun, aren't they?
On the way to Kent.
Yes,
there's one, and I remember driving that and said, "Whoa!"
Out of London,
right? Yeah, it's just you come and then I can go this. Oh man, you go round.
Yeah.
Or in Spain, Spain has a lot. Barcelona still, and Valencia, they still have a lot of roundabouts in Spain on the continent. So I remember going on buses and going, "Wow, this is cool, man! This is so cool." But Greg was saying the roundabouts in California, but on the East Coast, they have lots of roundabouts. They used to have lots of them. Columbus Circle in New York City is a roundabout.
What's the worst one you've ever driven?
The worst one?
Yeah,
Columbus Circle in New York City.
Okay, I would choose the Arc de Triomphe in
Arc de Triomphe, yes. That
and the Champs-Elysees.
That is
in Paris,
horrible. Yeah.
It's crazy because the French are crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, the worst drivers in Europe are French, you think?
No, they're crazy, not the worst.
Okay.
The English are probably the worst.
I was going to say the worst experience I had was in England.
Yeah, we are probably the worst, yeah.
But the French are crazy. The Italians are also nuts.
Man, yeah.
Up in the provinces especially. So
yeah.
Yeah. But so driving in Japan, how does Japan compare to that? This is
very slow.
Yes, it is, isn't
slow.
It? Yes.
For me, I mean, in England, normal roads here, which are 30 kilometers an hour, would be 50 in England.
Right.
That's right.
Some of the wider roads are going to be sort of 60. The dual carriageway would be 100.
Yeah.
Or the highway, 140 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, Japan, not
very slow here.
The fastest they've allowed is 100 now, but only in certain parts of the expressway.
Yeah,
my wife was shocked in England by the emergency services. We were in Oxford Street in England, which is the main street, and it is packed with traffic.
Yeah.
And an ambulance is coming along at about 100 kilometers an hour. and the
Right.
traffic just parts, and it doesn't slow down. And my wife was shocked, and I said to her, "That's normal."
And
But here, I mean, if I ever got ill here, I think I'd get on my bike and cycle to the hospital
That's right.
because it'd be quicker than the ambulance.
Yeah.
what I like
You
is
know, you could cycle past Nina, Nina. You know.
what I like is the guy in the ambulance here in Japan. He's yelling, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" And he's
I
going,
know.
"Du- du- 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 du."
I know.
or like when he starts to go, there's always somebody follows him, so they can get through all the traffic, so they can.
Well, yeah, that was always the skill in London. If you got an ambulance or a fire engine going fast, you tuck in behind it. You'd get from one side of London to the other in about 15 minutes as opposed to 2 hours, you know.
So, here in Japan, I mean, like we're used to, because we were raised in the West and in England or America, we're used to miles. And I remember, well, here in Japan, I'm only about 12 miles from the bay or the ocean. Not quite the Pacific Ocean, but I'm about 12 miles from the large bay that comes in Nagoya. And so, but yet it takes you like 30, 45 minutes to get there. And you're going along on the city street at 50 kph. And it's like, it's almost like the equivalent of miles per hour, but it's not, it's slower.
Yeah.
And you're going on the toll road and it's 60 kph or 80 kph. And that's not, that's only like about 62 miles an hour.
No, 48 times it by 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, can I interject? I've never heard anybody say kph.
Oh yeah, I use kph. In England, we say kph.
Yeah, because
if
everywhere.
we don't say kilometers per hour, it's too much trouble. kph.
I don't say it, just k.
Oh, that to us is distance. That to English people is distance.
Yeah, see, that's what I want to make. I want to show that. But, yeah, but some people. I always say k because I'm not sure kph or k or but yeah, for speed. I was just interested. I haven't heard that. I don't.
No, we tend to use k for distance
because we don't say mph. We just say miles.
We use mph, kph.
I don't use MPH in America. I never used MPH.
Oh, okay.
Greg,
that's okay. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I never said MP. I never used that acronym. Wow, man, I've been living in Japan too long.
That it's very interesting because you've been here 30 years now, almost closing on 30 years, and that's like a lifetime.
More than half my life has been spent in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, using K, we'd say this car has done 20K, as in 20,000 miles. For distance, we'd say Ks.
Ks.
20 Ks. But for speed, kph.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to write that in a minute. kph. Okay. I was like, man, I'm out of it. Sorry, I had to thank you for the lesson. Mark Sensei, arigato.
Okay.
Greg Sensei, arigato.
I'm just telling you how we Brits say it. You know how foreign we are.
Yeah, I know. You guys are out of control.
I'm not sure. And if I don't know it, I'll tell you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or at least we'll now get a standard here that I can live by.
but I will say it is interesting because the speed generally speaking is slower.
Yeah, it's very slow.
When I know friends or my family who have come to visit me in Japan tell me, can't you go any faster? And I'm going, this is the limit, or when what's frustrating to my father, for example, when I go back to California and I rent a car and I'm driving and I'm driving, I'm doing the speed limit, I'm doing, 80 mile mph, miles per hour. And then my dad says, is there something wrong? I said, what? He says, why aren't you keeping up with the traffic? I mean, that's how Californians, we don't necessarily follow the speed limit. We stay with the traffic flow. So, and my dad is that way. My dad says, keep up with the traffic, just drive. Okay, but then it feels weird because I've been driving here so long now.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
I have that problem when I go back to England and I start driving again. I find myself driving at Japanese speeds, and I can tell people behind me are getting frustrated, you know. And I have to really concentrate to do the speed.
Yeah.
And at first, it's actually quite scary when you first do it again after such a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to like speed, but Japan has kind of beat me down.
Yeah.
You know,
beats it out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then sometimes I feel like I'm going too fast here, but when I get back to when I get to California, it's like I'm still way too slow.
Yeah.
How about you, Greg? I mean, you're driving in the big city. See, we're Mark and I are Niigata is a big city, but we're in the countryside. You know that. Well, what about driving in Nagoya? How's it feel there? Must be really slow.
No, the Nagoya drivers are notoriously crazy.
Well, I know the Kansai and the Chubu areas are crazier than Tokyo, but I'm talking about the traffic and I mean, can you go fast there?
On the toll roads, the expressway, yeah, you can go, but it's actually.
I'm talking about the streets.
No, it's too congested.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought.
You know, it's too congested here. It's like traffic is not like Tokyo, of course, but it's still how do you say Mindokusai, you know?
And trouble,
and it's I used to go. I had a job that was about 20 miles from here, maybe a little less. I don't know, and it took sometimes an hour or an hour and a half to get there. And it was on Japan National Route 1, and I would have stop and go traffic the whole way there. So that was
the other thing I talk about would be manners in driving.
Oh,
yeah. In England, we always let people out.
Right.
And I discovered, actually, to my surprise, Tokyo is the same.
Yeah.
We're the same here.
But here in Niigata,
no.
Really? So in Niigata.
Horrible here.
See, that I don't remember that because now
You didn't drive here, though, that much.
No, I didn't. And I got my license in Seidomachi at the driver's license center, right before I moved here. But what's interesting is that's a custom here in Aichi, to let people out in front of you.
Yeah, England too. We're really, please.
Right, merging.
Yeah.
They will pull up and block you rather than let you out.
There is an intersection.
They do that in America too, Mark.
On the bypass, Ogata. Greg, you remember Ogata?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you get off of there, and I sometimes get off of there because that's where Kaishi High School's at, and it's the center of the Higashi Sogo, the Western. I forgot. Anyway, the gym that's over there. Anyway, you get off there. There's 1, 2, 3 lanes. One lane will go and turn right underneath the bypass. One lane will go straight across, and you can catch the frontage road to go to the other side. And the left lane is a turning lane that goes out this direction. But the problem is that people will turn left on this lane, and there's 2 lanes going across, but they want to go all the way across the lane. But instead of merging, because there's plenty of space somewhere, you can drive and go slowly and then merge over. And if people would let them through, it would be slow. But they don't. They stop. Then you get this lane, you get 2 cars just stop like this. Then they're waiting for somebody to stop at this traffic so they can go across the lane. But they don't care about all the traffic that's backing up all the way into the bypass.
Yeah, which is dangerous once you get.
Which is more dangerous because trucks are coming down. You got. And it's like, you idiots, and I get angry.
Yeah.
And if a car will come up here and stop, and what I'll do is I'll go down underneath him and I'll just cut in front of him and I'll merge in, and then he honks at me and I'm going, what's the thing? Read between the lines. I mean, this is ridiculous.
It sounds like Los Angeles to me.
Yeah.
No, what LA is horrible, but San Bernardino, Greg, you drove in San Bernardino, my hometown area. Idiots everywhere. Idiots. Do you try to get on the freeway? Right, Greg? Do you remember? I don't know how often you went into downtown San Bernardino.
Every now and then.
Get off of Mount Vernon over Waterman Avenue.
Yep.
Man, you go by Hospitality Lane. Oh.
I used to go over there, marked for a copy center, because Kinko's
is right there on Hospitality Lane. Yeah, that's right.
That's when I first moved to Southern California in the early 1990s. I used because they were the only one in the area.
But it's just horrible, and I don't understand. I've been driving, now 44 years, 45 years. I've been driving, right? So we're driving 45 years, and all the things that I learned, that I was taught, are not being done anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's what are they teaching people?
I mean, it's things like indicators here. I mean, in England, we are told that an indicator is to warn you that the person's turning left. Not immediately, but coming up soon. But here, this is the one I'm going in. Flash, flash, in.
Right.
And if you're not paying attention, you can go up the back of them real close.
In Niigata.
Yeah.
In Japan.
In Japan in general.
They don't turn the indicators, the blinkers, on until the last possible second.
No, we turn them on, 100 meters before.
That's what we were taught.
Yeah.
Or for us, how many feet before, Greg, did we learn? And I think it was like 60, half a block is what I remember my driver's ed teacher in high school said. Half a block before you turn, move, get into the lane you want to do, and then put your blinkers on.
Yeah.
I can't remember, I got I went to driving school, and that was in 2016. Yeah. And they said that you had to turn on your blinkers, and I think it was 30 meters before.
30 meters before. Yeah. But they don't.
No, they literally just flick it on just as they're about to turn. It goes on the same time their brakes do usually.
I like how they when the brakes are on, they turn. Oh yeah, I'm turning. Ooh, read between the lines.
But here, I will say that the drivers from Nagoya you got to watch out for them. That's what I've been told by native Japanese, and also they are in general. I would say people are nice about letting people in. They really are.
Not here though.
Not here.
Yeah. No. That's something I'd forgotten.
Another thing, isn't it?
Well, you only got your license quickly, but man, it's getting worse. It feels like it's getting worse. So, and now
I don't know about you, Mark, but when I took my driving test all those years ago, you had to be a good driver to pass it. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, it seems as long as you spend enough money, they'll give you a license.
I have our students at AIR that our school gives a discount for if you want to take the driver's test for students, which means you take the driving school, they get a discount. They get like 10% or 15% off.
No,
so some of the students over the winter break will take the winter break because they have 1 month, and they'll do that 1 month. They'll go to the driving school and do that, but they pay them the money. They go every day to do the lessons and whatever, like Greg, what you did when you went to practice. They'll do the same thing, except they have to do a written part, and then they go to the driving center and then do the test, and they get the license that day. And I know some of these students. I've had some of these students, and I wouldn't trust these students with a shopping cart, let alone a vehicle.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that the driving test or the driving practice that I took was on a closed circuit course, and it was completely different than street or city driving, and it was you had to practice going through a set of obstacles, but I did that very carefully, and I really paid attention, and I spent probably $600-700 on that school. And I went there over numerous practice times. And so I was lucky enough to get my license the same day that I took the test.
Well, first time. The students we're talking, our college students will pay $3,000.
Right.
For the, or so for the 4 weeks, and they're pretty much guaranteed. no matter
Yeah.
how. As long as they pay it, they show up and they do everything, they're guaranteed a
Yeah.
license. Not like you, Greg, or me, where if we don't get that test, we don't get a license. We have to go
Yeah.
back. I mean, I had to
Yeah.
do it 3 times, even though the
I
first
did
time
it
I failed
twice.
it. The first time I failed it because I didn't know the course, and they just threw me out there, and they said, "Oh, great, humiliate the gaijin, the foreigner." Great, okay, no problem. I took the practice, went back the second time, I nailed it, and they still failed me. The third time I didn't practice
Yeah, you
anymore.
see,
I just went in and did it, and then they gave it to me. I
I
guess
was
I was.
luckier than you. I was
Yeah,
luckier than you because with the English license, you don't have to take a test.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the Americans, you have to translate your license, and then you have to take a written test. Did you take a written test, Greg?
It was 10 questions and it was
Oh,
extremely simple.
you got the 10 ones. I got the 5-question one. And I got the 5, they gave me 5 English questions, and the English was so horrible. And the guy asked me, "Do you understand?" You know, what karimashita ka? I said, "What karimasen?" So ego chotto hen, eh? I said, "This is very strange English, huh?" And he goes, "Gomenasai." So I said, "I'll check it." And so I started checking it, and I corrected it, and I gave it back. "Ah, arigato gozaimasu. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay." Anyway, but I passed it. But there was I remember when I took my test, there was a Chinese girl, a woman. Sorry, don't say girl. A Chinese woman who was taking the test, and she was trying to do it in Japanese, and she didn't understand the kanji. I was listening to her speak Japanese. She couldn't understand what the kanji meant. So she couldn't read. They didn't have a Chinese kanji version of the test. She was trying to read a Japanese kanji version of the test. And she complained and said, "I can't read this. And so they gave her the English one, and she passed it.
You know, I know someone up in Niigata who took the test 7 times, and they failed it until the 7th time. I think they finally passed it.
Yeah.
And I would always hear people talk about not being able to pass the test. Now, in your case, Mark Palmer, you were able to just transfer your license over because it's this on the same side. But I know people down here who they talk about how to pass the test and the driving license test. Nobody asks me because nobody cares what I think. But if they did, I'd tell them what they exactly need to do is what I did, because the test proctor, not the proctor, but the police officer at the license center said, "I see here," he told me in Japanese, he said, "I see here that you studied at the school across the street many times, and then I passed the test." And I thought, well, wait a minute, I never told them that I studied at the school. How did they know that?
The school tells them.
So
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what happened.
That's how
I mean, take it. Sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
Go on.
No,
And
I was just saying.
I can say, Mark, that I know people down here who had the same thing. I knew someone who was a higher level than me, and he said, I failed it 7 times, and that was here in Aichi. And so,
but I mean, taking a test in England when I did it, I mean, we don't have Toy Town. You start from day one on the roads.
yeah,
That's it. They take you to a nice little quiet place and they teach you the basics. I mean, when I took my first test in England, it was during Henley Regatta in Henley-on-Thames.
Oh, yeah.
You can probably imagine was horrendous.
Yeah.
And he failed me on my positioning of vehicle after turning left because there were so many people on the path I couldn't actually see. So I was a little bit pissed about that. Second time, I passed it. But, you had to prove that you could drive properly. I mean, really drive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in California, our driver's test is the same. It's on the road. You don't. Yeah. But the driver's education system is different now than it was when I was in high school, and I'm assuming it's a different when you were in high school.
It's definitely different.
Well, it's different in England now, yeah.
Because when I was in high school, the driver's education was a class.
That's right.
It was you did a 1-year course in driver's education. It was part of your social studies, I believe, the shakai for Japanese people. So we had the first semester or first quarter was the in class where you study the book and you do the assimilator, right? The simulator.
Yeah.
You know, the little machine, you go inside the booth and it was like a game. I always liked that. And then the second quarter was our high school had cars.
Mm.
So we went out and driving around the neighborhood with the guy, and the guy would.
Did the cars have dual controls?
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same as us. Yeah.
So then that was cool, and then then you got your learner's permit. You got to take a test, and then they gave you a learner's permit. You had to pass the high school sections first, then they gave you a certificate. Then you go into the driver's center, take the written test, and then they'll give you a learner's permit. So like I remember my father went with me, but my father never practiced with me. My mother had to. She always said she hated that.
My mother insisted that I learn how to drive. When I had my learner's permit, that's how I learned how to drive with her. I mean, after the driving course, I would drive around in a manual transmission, a stick shift.
Of course.
Proper car.
She insisted on that.
I had a 1969 Volkswagen 4-speed, air-cooled 4-speed, nice. My brother still owns it, actually. I think it's on his...
I had a 1973 Porsche 911 2.7.
Oh, winner! That'd be great, man.
I had it for all of 6 months because I really couldn't afford to insure it when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
I just insured it for I bought it with a slightly dodgy engine, but I knew what was wrong with the engine. It took me about 20 minutes and about 2,000 yen to fix it.
Wow.
And then I drove it around, for about 3 or 4 months because I was doing the insurance monthly. It was so high. And then I sold it at quite a good profit.
Well, that's good. I mean, yeah.
But I wished I'd kept it.
Yeah. I look at that Jay Leno show every time, and I look at cars that I had or my family members had. God, I remember that car. My grandmother had one of those. I mean, like you know, the old cars with the fins on them. You know, like
love them.
The Chryslers, you know, all that.
So much style they had. They really did style.
Yep. Let's ask that. I mean, what do you think about new cars today? What do you think about the styling? I mean, and I'm thinking also like the Teslas and all these other electric cars that come in. What do you think about those? I mean,
well, I've got a Honda Stepwagon. Okay, now I've owned many cars, from Porsche 911s, old Volkswagen Beetles, Minis. I was a mechanic, so I've had a huge range of cars. I have to say that Honda is probably the best car I have ever owned. It is bland and it is soulless, but it does everything perfectly.
Right.
There is no other way to describe it.
Right.
So it's perfection as a car, but it has no character.
Yeah. See, that's true, because the best car that I've ever had was actually here was because like I said, I've owned mostly Chevys. Okay. Because being a Mexican, sorry, I'm not going to be stereotypes, but there used to be a joke that all Mexicans drove Chevys, you know, or Chevys, as my father was calling them. Anyway, so, you know, I had different kinds. I had Chevelles, Impalas, Novas. I had the Volkswagen. I also drove the new car when they came out. That was the first GM's tie-up with Nissan or Suzuki Motors, where they came out with the cars. And so I had a little Geo and things like that, you know, a brand new car. That was my first brand new car I ever had, you know. But when I came to Japan, I until now, I had been driving Subarus. So I had 2 Legacies and 3 Foresters. And the Forester, man, love that car. A little higher, all-wheel drive, great traction, great handling. And like you said, it could do everything I wanted to do. But in terms of styling, it looks like it's bland. Soulless would be a good way to describe it. I was going to say I have a Toyota now. This is my first outside of the Chevys, and I have a Toyota CHR, and I love driving it. It's a very comfortable car, great sound. I got a nice sound system. I have a nice GPS system, and I mean, it's all electronic. It's a hybrid. I get great gas mileage, gas kilometerage.
Mm.
I don't know what how do I say that, Greg?
Gas
Gas
mileage.
mileage. Yeah,
But
gas mileage.
I'm not driving
Well,
miles.
yeah,
I'm
but
driving.
gas
I'm driving.
economy.
Oh, it's economic. Okay, okay. Let me write that up. Gas economy. Okay. Anyway, but it's a great car. But if I look at it, it looks the same as there's a Honda that's similar. There's a Nissan that's similar. There's a Mazda that's similar. There's all many different cars that look almost the same. So there's nothing unique about it. There's
Yeah.
and I, it's
Yeah,
soulless.
the trouble is, I think they're all using the same software now and the same drag coefficient figures and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. And you feed all that into a computer, and that's what it turns out.
Yeah.
I have a Suzuki Alto.
Nice
Yeah.
small car.
That's small car, K car.
But those are the same, right? You have many K cars that have the same similar layout, basically. You're
point A to point B, and I love my car.
yeah, but see,
it's not exciting, is it?
No,
no.
no.
But I get, but I mean, let's be honest a little bit. I mean, I grew up in a car culture. My dad was in a car club when he was in high school. They used to make hot rods and lowriders, and all my relatives, have worked on cars. I grew up working on cars. And Mark, you are a mechanic. That's your thing. Greg, I don't know if you had that. If you did that kind of thing where you actually dropped an engine into a car, or and played around with.
Maybe you have to have a love for it or family member who's really skillful at it, and I don't have that.
My father's that way, my brother's that way, and my cousins and uncles were all that way. We did that. We picked up cars, restored them, and sold them and tried to make a profit. But the thing is, I miss it. So that's why I'm watching this Jay Leno thing, because
I really miss it.
Yeah,
I so desperately want to
get your head. Yeah, and we're in the worst country for that.
Yeah, it's buying parts is bad enough. I mean, you go into a car accessory shop here, and it's just full of shiny nothing.
Mark Palmer, I was going to ask you if you could tell our friends or viewers in England or wherever, America, what would be your favorite part about being a long-term resident here in Japan?
Silence.
Silence is golden. I like the Japanese, and I like the safety here. I love my students. They're great. I love their character. I love the way they are. So many of them are really lively and funny.
That's true. I mean, the reason I stayed here this long is because of those kind of things. I like the students that I've taught, and
that's what keeps me here. Really.
Yeah.
Anything else? No, probably not. That, I think, is the main motivation. My students, and to see them come in as first years as nervous little high school students and blossom and become really wide thinking and confident young women and men, that I like.
With that point, there's one thing that Yasunaga Sensei at our school, and we all three know, Ikuku Yasunaga, she told me that there was something great that happened, and that our students, the students that I taught with her, if you go to the Peninsula Hotel, 5-star hotel, one of the best in Asia, one of the best in Asia and around the world, in Tokyo, if you go to the first floor, all 6 of the main positions, the bell, the front, the counter, reception, the concierge, all the main positions when you walk into the lobby of the Peninsula Hotel, the first people you see are my students.
That's great.
Yeah.
And they're all, because Peninsula is where a lot of main foreigners come here to the Peninsula. I mean, I mean, I had a former student who took care of Paul McCartney when he was on tour. I mean, and getting 10,000 yen tips from Paul McCartney, but
Yeah.
all of our students, worked hard and learned English to improve their skills, got the job there, and they're completely bilingual, and they're sitting there, and that's for high level guests that come to Japan. They're seeing our students, and Mark, you taught some of those students, and Greg, you actually taught a couple of those students too.
I mean, every time I go through Niigata Airport or Narita Airport, I just
Airport.
get like this bang, 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 bang on the window, as I'm walking past. One of my students.
I met one of our students when I was going to, where was I going? Oh, I know what it was. It was my first year here in Japan. I was returning to America for a 2-month thing to get my visa, and this student was working at Narita Airport, and so pretty amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, so you're right. The people, but the safety. Explain a little bit about the safety. What specifically?
Well, I mean, it took me years to get over the fact that I'm walking down the road at night, and there's 4 young men coming to me dressed, shall we say, leather jackets and what have you, and my heart would skip.
Yeah.
Because in England, that would be maybe a dangerous situation. But then they come up on you and they're all like, "Konbanwa," They've got the look, but they don't have the attitude,
No.
I remember that like in Himeji,
yeah. And if you drop anything, I mean, I've lost my keys before now, and I've lost my wallet with money in it, and it's been returned complete.
Yeah.
And I've got to the habit now where I found somebody's ATM card the other day, and I took it to the police. You think nothing of it. I found a wallet before now.
You can even ride the train and forget your umbrella on the train.
Yeah, and you'll get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is something I like. That I mean, England was like that when I was growing up, when I was young. But it isn't now. And you don't realize how much you've lost. Losing that thing where you can drop something and you'll get it back.
What I find,
my wife can walk across the city at 11:30 at night after drinking with her friends and be perfectly safe. There isn't a city in England that I can think of where she could do that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
I can be honest with you.
Well, I mean, where I grew up, you couldn't really do that when I grew up, but at the socioeconomics of the area where I grew up, we're not that stable. Greg knows he lived in that area, but for me, when you said safety, the thing for me, safety is kind of like the society itself. Not necessarily the night kind of thing or whatever, but it's more like every kind of level of society that you approach, whether it's the bank or in a restaurant or at some department store, you're greeted with some level of respect.
Yeah, that's more eloquent. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. I'm eloquent, Greg. Don't forget that.
No, you are. Oh. You're Mr. Niigata. You're very elegant.
But there is a level of respect, and that's what struck me the first time I came to Japan, was that I could walk in, they go, "Yashaimase," they're welcoming you, they're screaming at you, but I was like, what did I do? I didn't know what they were saying, but I was like, what did I do? Did I drop something? But that kind of respect where it's cultural, yes, it's a habit, it's common, but it's at least respectful. I mean, and I don't get that in America. The last few times, I mean, of course I get it with my friends and with my family, but if I go shopping or something, sometimes.
Yeah, I can give you a good example of that one. Going back to England, I went back to England on a visit a few years ago now, and my father said, "I want to buy a new computer. Will you come with me?" And I said, "Sure." And we went to the computer shop, and the salesman was talking to my father, and I thought, God, he's rude. And then I looked at my father and realized that his face was completely normal. And I realized that this was normal in England. I'd got so used to the polite Japanese way of doing it.
Yeah. That's
You also
true.
can see by living long term in a foreign place, you can see some of the changes that happen in your own country, and
Oh yeah, yeah, big time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and both good and bad.
Mm.
So yeah,
Good. Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Let's put that in inverted commas, shall we? The
Good and bad
Yeah.
and bad.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, I know what you mean, Greg.
yeah.
well, I think we're getting towards the end of our conversation anyway here. So I know that
Yeah.
Greg has to.
Greg's got to go. Yeah.
Greg's got an appointment, and I don't want him to get in trouble. So, right, Greg?
That's right.
Okay. So, but Mark, any final words for everyone? Any piece of advice?
No, not really. Just that it's great to see you again, Greg, because it's been a while since we met.
Yeah.
I met you just about the day before you were off to move and get married and whatever else.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you one final thing from my end is that part of a major part of my entire work life and in my life, I owe it to about 3 or 4 people, and you are one of those persons because you left. If you recall, you left. You gave me the cram school that we both know about.
Yeah,
and with the great people at that cram school. That school,
they're lovely.
Yeah, that was fantastic experience, and I took over your position so you could go back to England for a while, and then you took your you went back to England. You returned a couple years later, and I owe a lot of that to you, and that helped me with my work life here in Japan.
You helped me out because I always hate leaving everybody in the lurch, as Mark knows.
Yeah.
I've never left him in the lurch. So.
And when I left that position there, they treated me like a king, and it was very sad to leave that position. And
a king?
I owe it all to you, Mark.
No. You were welcome. You helped me out then.
I also remember
I don't like to leave anybody.
I remember our morning chats in many times in before class that we'd have before we'd go off with our students, and you'd be always Mark Palmer would always be with a student sitting in the lobby chatting, helping someone or just talking. Yeah. And we had many of those conversations, so I relish and miss those very much. And I want to say thank you, and it was really great to see you today.
Students don't really do that so much now, do they? Back then, they really did want to speak in their lunch times, but not so much.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, the smartphone has taken over that job. So. But anyway, I want to thank you, Mark Palmer. Thank you for your time.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. I hope everybody watching enjoys it and doesn't laugh at me too much.
Well, like I said last, all 25 people will enjoy this. Greg thinks there's more people looking at this. I'm looking at the average of our likes and looks, and it's about 25.
But it gets the message to about 25 people. So
good, and I hope it spreads. And please share this, Mark. I said the link of so, but I want to say thank you again for coming, and Greg, thanks for everything. I'm sorry to keep you late. Please apologize to your family. That tell them that that Mexican, he just gets.
He's in for a bit of nagging now. Aren't you?
No problem. Okay.
Boy, do we know.
Anyway, that's it from Musings number 17.
Musings from Japan. Thank you very much, Mark Palmer.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I hope to see you all later. And I hope to see you again, Greg, soon.
We will. I promise.
Pandemic.
Thank you.
After the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.